Thomas, it's up for grabs now!
Magic ball from Bergkamp to Patrick Vieira!
Oh, would you believe it? Oh, right, what a way to get it!
Fabulous solo goal by Thierry Henry.
Good evening, everybody. Very, very welcome and warm greetings to the Arsenal Lounge for our usual Monday night podcast. Lev is not going to be with us, unfortunately. He's stuck at work. Make what you want to make out of that. But anyway, there's a few things I'd like to start the show with, so bear with me a little bit. I'm going to play you guys a video, and then I'll tell you guys like, what is this about, etc. So let's give it a watch, all right?
Arsenal comes streaming forward now, and surely that will be their last attack. Good ball by Dixon, finding Smith. The Thomas charging to the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now. Thomas, right at the end.
Right. So basically, we like to support good causes here at Arsenal Lounge, and Gooners versus Cancer. Rather, they've got a charity. They raise funds, and it goes to leukemia and another foundation which I forgot. But this is a really good cause that is Arsenal connected as well, not the club connected, but it's the fans kind of thing connected. Mike is in charge of this. Good guy. We're gonna have him on the show again. I'll put the link in the description to the show. So click on it, go there. You can enter the competition, and you have a chance to win that shirt that was just on the video. So it's a really good cause. Get behind it. Top guy, Mike, as well. Tom obviously knows him quite well as well. So hopefully we can help to get some awareness going for that. So that's one thing I wanted to start the show with. The other one that I wanted to mention before we talk about the game is it's really amazing to see how football has come together with everything that has been happening in Ukraine, and obviously our thoughts and prayers goes to friends and family of everybody that has been affected there. I see the whole standing in the Watford game, you know, having the flag of Ukraine, the captain armbands before the kickoff of every game, people clapping, players coming to in the middle, and it's really good and powerful message that we're giving out as football family. The only thing I'll say about that is that I wish we had the same energy about other conflicts and issues around the world. The Palestinian issue, the Uyghur Muslims in China, there's Yemen, there's a war, but we can't pick and choose what we like to get behind and what we like to ignore. I don't want to make it political or anything. It's fantastic to see, but I just hope that we can see this for all issues, not just one. Anyway, Mr. Haydar, how are you?
I'm good, very well put, and I hope the Gooners versus Cancer initiative goes well as well. Nice of you to share that, and best of luck to them. And if anyone's got a compelling, believable answer as to why there's been this different treatment, I just want to hear it. So I want to kind of get outside of my echo chamber a little bit, because people I talk to probably all think like me. So if anyone does know why Ukraine is being treated so differently to Palestine, they're both in breach of international law, please, honestly, I mean this sincerely, let me know. I just want to trying to broaden my horizons and see if I'm missing a trick or something. But other than that, all good.
Very good. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. I mean, I should apologise first to those watching because you're probably watching me through the grainiest of camera screens. Sky Internet, just what you're doing, guys. Sort yourselves out. That's nothing on my end. You can hear me perfectly fine. The equipment's all good. It's just for some reason Sky have decided to screw me over today. But it's interesting there listening, obviously, yeah, and support to Gooners versus Cancer. Mike's a really good guy, does the Gooners pods, and he's put together a great cause there. And yeah, I echo the thoughts of Moh there too. I mean, from my perspective, I've learned a lot about the Palestinian conflict through actually listening to what Moh has to say, because the information just isn't out there for me to access as easily. And I think probably from my perspective, Moh, while we hear a lot about the Ukrainian conflict, it's because it's so much closer to home, like from my perspective, and it's so much more accessible to get the information about it. And you're right, like we need to raise awareness of other conflicts that are just as bad and should be talked about more. Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. After discussing everything we discussed, there was a wonderful game at the Watford ground. What's their stadium called, by the way? I know this, but I've forgotten.
Vicarage Road.
Vicarage Road. That's it. At the Vicarage Road. Did you go to the game, or?
No, unfortunately, couldn't get a ticket. Away tickets are just an absolute nightmare. So no, I was watching from home.
I want to actually start off with you, because you put a comment on Twitter just now that you said you don't know if we played well or it was something else. It was something in that sort of line.
Yeah,
do you want to go into that?
Yeah, I don't know if Arsenal played well or if Arsenal played badly. I still don't know. I still can't figure it out. It was the weirdest game, because at times you're thinking, what the hell was that? That was awful. And you think, you need to improve. If we play like that against bigger teams, then we're done for. And then other times you're thinking, we're playing scintillating stuff, really, really good football. So I'm just a bit unclear. And I think Saka's goal is probably, a good example of that, because Gabriel gets the ball, tries to play a diagonal pass on the ground across the pitch, finds a Watford man. So that's the bad. And then Saka does some really good work off the ball, gets it, gives it to Lacazette, lovely 1-2, and then top corner and scored a goal, but started from a mistake that Saka sort of capitalised on. And I think my summary of the entire game was that the two best players on the pitch were wearing Arsenal shirts. On another day, if the two players that played out of their skin and were the best players on the pitch were wearing Watford shirts, I actually think they would have gone and won the game. When you look at the latter part of that game, Watford had chance after chance. They really did. Ramsdale, his distribution hasn't been as good in recent weeks, and he played one ball out that went straight to a Watford man. They came back and he had to make the save. I think a ball went across the 6-yard box. I think it was Dennis on the left-hand side that should have scored, didn't score. And then obviously Sissoko went and scored from a careless crossfield pass by Xhaka, and Ben White should have done better on the defending. There was a lot not to like, but then there was so much to absolutely love as well. So I need you guys to tell me, and everyone watching, did we play well or not?
I thought we played really well, actually. At times, even like the old Arsenal that we know. But I do get your point when it comes to the defense, and obviously we'll come to that. But my view on this is, I thought we played well. Watford is not. They're not the greatest of opposition, and they're going through a bit of a tough time now. So I expect us to win. But I thought it was a really good performance. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I did. I thought offensively it was one of the best offensive performances we've kind of seen moving forwards. I think what we've seen is an Arsenal side that have lacked clinical finishing in so many weeks and months that we've had this season. We've created chances, not taken them. And actually what we've seen this season now is that, we're creating these chances and we're taking them. And that's the difference between this Arsenal side and what's gone previously. And I think we only had something like 4 shots on target, I think something like that. So to score 3 goals from that shows the difference and kind of how we're elevating our level of finishing and how clinical that we are. Because there's going to be games against Liverpool and Chelsea and Spurs and United where maybe we aren't creating as many chances. But if we can take those few, it's going to create a huge difference for us for where we eventually end up come the end of this season. Defensively, though, I think there is a lot of reasons to be a little bit concerned. I think Arsenal have conceded a worrying amount of goals in the last 20 minutes of games, and that's certainly something that we need to kind of address. Arteta needs to address that a lot. Ben White was definitely at fault for the second goal. Sissoko was far too easy to get in behind and to slot that finish away. And I mean, Dennis could have easily scored another one as well with that.
He scored one right at the beginning as well. That was offside, didn't he?
He did. It was a warning sign that we did react to, thankfully. But yeah, well, there was a bit of luck that was needed. But in seasons where you need to try and get top four, you do need a bit of luck, and we got some today, and that was really telling.
But Shaheen, I'll just add to the point in terms of not really knowing whether we played well or not. We scored some amazing goals.
Yeah.
And Tom mentioned that we only had 4 shots on target. We scored 3 goals. So it just kind of prompted me to check the XG, the expected goals, Arsenal versus Watford. And our expected goals was only 0.94. We scored 3 goals with an XG of the entire game of 0.94. And Watford's XG was 1.42. And I think that does tell you a big story there in terms of how good we were in one sense in terms of being clinical, and then also how poor we were. And when you look at Arteta's comments, the thing is, right, when you talk publicly about a game, especially after a win, if you ever want to touch on room for improvement, you can often come across quite toxic. People sort of say like, enjoy the win, don't know why you're complaining. But you want to call it how you see it, obviously, and stay true to what you truly believe. So I was quite glad, actually, when Arteta, after the game, he mentioned that he said, defensively, we didn't have the right structure. We didn't detect with enough urgency the moments where they could activate certain spaces that we knew. I think that, to me, Xhaka's part in the third goal was, he's speaking about that. That's why we suffered. We conceded 2, and we could have conceded another 1 or 2. And he said that on looking angry after the second goal, when he was asked about that, he actually said, I didn't like how we were controlling the game. We were allowing spaces against the team who, if we kept allowing that, we were going to suffer. I knew that. And then he said, in the last 25 minutes, we lost it. We had to show maturity, understanding, capacity to control the game how we wanted to. And interestingly, this is what I found interesting about what he said. At 3-1, after, we had to make 300,000 passes in the opposition half. And when they had the right moment to come at us, we can attack them. We didn't do that. So he was obviously... That's not the sort of comments you expect to hear from a manager when you've just gone and won an important game away from home. So I found that quite interesting. He clearly wasn't happy.
Yeah. Tom, do you think Gabriel's got, as good as he is, do you think he's got moments in him that he's a bit rash, or he just commits a bit too much, or I'm just...
No, you're not. Look, he's still young. Like, he's still a young defender, and he's playing in a young defensive team. Like, it's not like he's got an experienced centre-back next to him. He's actually one of the, along those same lines of 23, 24 years of age as is the whole of the back line. So, yeah, look, the mistakes are going to happen. But for all of those, well, I say for all of those, it's not loads. He's not peppered with errors in his game. There's so many positives to what he brings to the team: the physicality, the recovery pace, the challenges that he makes. His positioning as well can be very, very good. His distribution can be good, although it did suffer a bit yesterday. So there is a lot of positives to come from Gabriel's game.
Yeah, he had a bit of a hairy moment against Wolves as well for the goal. That we could see.
Yeah, absolutely. And these things are going to happen, but they are going to be developed upon. You need to learn from his mistakes as a young player, and he still is a young player, and that is going to come. But the fact that we are achieving what we're achieving with these young guys is in itself really impressive. And again, whilst the defence wasn't really stepping it up, I mean, I think behind the top 3 and Wolves, we had the best defensive record in the league. I think with the 5th highest or 5th least goals conceded in the league this season. It's interesting where we will sit if we do qualify for the Champions League, how we kind of cope with the European football. But we've got Saliba coming back, fingers crossed, in the summer. I think we need to improve depth-wise at right back with Cedric, although I've been quite impressed with Cedric over the last 4 games, although I thought yesterday's game was probably his weakest of the 4 wins that we've had with him in the team. If we can improve that depth, I think we've got a great chance of having a really solid, consistent and improving unit of defenders in this side.
Okay. Got a super chat from Wayne. Thank you very much, Wayne, for your kind super chat. Well, we played really well yesterday. There was a few moments of brain farts and overconfidence. Took our foot off the gas and got
lackadaisical. But did we really play well? That's the question that I'm asking. Watford had 13 shots on goal, and 7 of them on target. I feel like I would have hoped before the game Arsenal could limit Watford to less than 13 shots on goal. It's not, it's not like they're shooting from the halfway line or anything. Where
I mean, Mo,
mean
you mentioned this now, right? I was going to talk about this a little bit further down the line, but we might as well talk about it now. So we've played. I'll go back since the
25.
So we've played Burnley at home, got a draw. Beat Wolves away. The Chelsea game was postponed. Beat Brentford at home. Beat Wolves at home. Beat Watford away. Okay, so relatively easy run. Now this is the run coming up. We've got Leicester at home. Then we've got Liverpool at home. Aston Villa away. Crystal Palace away. Brighton at home. Southampton away. Man United at home. And then obviously there's quite a few. And then the Chelsea and Tottenham game are yet to be rescheduled. Now, speaking about the point that you said, whether we played bad or played well, do you think that we've been playing against fairly average opposition and we've come across okay? We've done well. We've got the points. So if we play the same way, for example, against Liverpool at home or Chelsea or Tottenham or even Leicester to a certain degree, we'll have the same outcome or we'll get found out.
Well, Wolves aren't average. Wolves are not a team.
If you take Wolves out, right?
But no, you can't. That's 2 games against Wolves. And actually, I really feel like we really earned those victories. We really grafted and got stuck in. So I'll take nothing away from the team in respect of those wins. But I would say the next 3 fixtures will tell us everything we need to know about Arsenal. Because in the early on in the season, when we have had really tough runs, I've looked at the fixture list and I've said that this will tell me about Mikel Arteta. And honestly, every single time I've done that this season, we've faltered. Now, I feel like playing 1 game a week, a lot of people have said that will give us a benefit. I feel like we've seen that. That is giving us a benefit. Also, the fact that we had that extended period in Dubai and everything, I'm assuming now that what we're seeing is as a result of all of that stuff. So I hope that now in this little difficult phase in terms of the fixture list, we'll see a difference in the team. And also the way we beat Wolves, how good it felt against Watford based on how close the game became. These things should give you a lot of confidence and should make you believe that you're going to achieve your aims. It feels more, it feels better than if you just win an easy sort of 2-0 score early on, right? So I feel like the team should be buzzing right now. So Leicester at home, Liverpool at home, Villa away. They are, I'd say the easiest game of all of that is probably Leicester at home, given the form that they're on. So
yeah, Palace away it can be tricky as well, Mo.
Yeah,
because they've got a 0-0 draw, I think, this season.
Yeah, so I'm a bit nervous, I have to admit, but I'm just hoping that the team's in a good run of form, and hopefully they truly believe that they're going to go and achieve top 4. So,
okay, what about you, Tom? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to these next 3 games because, as Mo said, it's going to tell us a lot. I think they could be a defining period of the season. They're in such a short space of time as well. The fixture scheduling, whoever's behind that, is really trying their hardest to try and screw up Arsenal's season. That's for sure, by putting those within such a short space of one another. And it's going to also test the depth of the squad because I don't feel like we can play the exact same 11 as we have been in those 3 games. I feel like Mikel Arteta is going to have to make a couple of tweaks in those 3 matches and also have to make some tough decisions in terms of which games he's going to prioritise. I think we absolutely have to go hell for leather in the games against Leicester and Villa to try and get the points that we should be able to get in those games. But Liverpool is a game at home that I think is a bit of a measuring stick to kind of see where we've progressed. We have been playing sides that there is an expectation that we should beat. And the last big team that we played at home, being Manchester City, we were very unfortunate not to come out with a result in that fixture. And I thought we played better in that game than Spurs did at the Etihad, and yet we were the one coming out with 0 points in that match. And sometimes that's just the way that football goes. But I want to see a performance like we put in against City, against Liverpool next week, and hopefully we can take those points. While Mo was bringing up the stuff about kind of Watford and the shots as well, I was kind of having a look at specifically the where the shots were kind of taken, and we conceded 5 shots in the opening 30 minutes. However, only one of those shots had a higher than 0.1 xg. So whilst I agree with you that we should be limiting Watford to less opportunities, the thing is we were limiting them to opportunities taken from really unopportunistic situations. And I think obviously the overhead kick was a really low xg shot. I think it was still only 0.22, but all the rest are 0.08, 0.07, 0.09, 0.01. They're not shots that are, have a high chance of going in, because we were forcing Watford to take those chances from really unopportunistic areas. So I think sometimes looking at those raw shooting stats doesn't always tell the full story. But Tom, you're right into highlighting it.
Towards the end of the game, where the ball came across the edge of the box, and then there was the one where Ramsdale saved it after his poor distribution. What was the XG on those? Because they're the ones that kind of stick in my head as Watford actually did have chances.
Yeah, so the Cleverley chance was 0.1. The Dennis chance on 63 minutes was 0.19. It then claims that the Dennis chance on 85 minutes was less than 0.01, which I find a bit mad, because that was the one.
I don't get that.
That's the one where Ben White blocked it, and it was a pretty close chance. Then Sissoko's goal was only 0.11, because I imagine that's from the angle that he was taking the shot from. But it's still an incredibly low XG that it comes out to.
I'm surprised.
But yeah, they had 3 shots in the last 10 minutes of the game, and that is something that we need to kind of stop. And there was an interesting statistic actually. One of my colleagues brought up, Aaron Catterson-Reeds. He said, took a look into Arsenal's problems with conceding goals late in games this season and realised that 14 of the 29 goals conceded in the Premier League have been from the 70th minute onwards. Don't get me wrong, it's an awful lot of these are being conceded like consolation goals, like against Villa, Spurs and Brentford and Watford, but some of those have cost us points, like against United, Everton and City. So it is something that we do need to be worried about, Shaheen, going into these next 3 fixtures, that if we are, say, leading, we need to make sure that we're resolute. And maybe the pressure of what the expectation is now to finish in the top 4 when we're leading these games is having a bit of an impact. I also would say on Ramsdale, when he concedes early and he loses that clean sheet, I think it's worth noting that his head kind of goes a bit. He hasn't got like that thing to protect anymore, that clean sheet. And so he's a little bit more rash with his decision-making, because it's a bit like, well, I've conceded now. I've lost that clean sheet. Yeah. I can be a little bit more adventurous. And I think as a young goalkeeper, he does need to improve on that.
Yeah, let me just read that Cliff super chat. Cliff, thank you for your super chat, mate. Much appreciated. We didn't play great, but he wasn't bad either. There were fantastic finishes. Makes it feel like we had a blinder, but it was an average performance, which is basically what you were saying, Moh. But following on from that, if the goal Watford scored was not offside, right, within 17 seconds, Watford 1-0 up, possibly we're looking at a different game. Or if you're playing against Liverpool at home, and within the first 5 minutes, Liverpool score a goal, you automatically have to come out a lot more than what you prefer or you'd like to score a goal, and I might leave you a bit open at the back. So I agree with you guys as well about the games coming up will tell us more about whether this is a corner that has been turned, or it's just a run of 5 or 6 wins that we've had before. A lot of people have had a go at me on Twitter and about Odegaard and how I've said he's not good enough and all of these things before. At the time, obviously, when we signed Odegaard, I said it was an underwhelming signing. I still stand by that.
Do you stand by that still? Do you?
Yeah.
Like, you think it was an underwhelming signing?
I stand by what I said at the time. Because at the time, he wasn't. I didn't think he was what we needed. Didn't have a greatest of start to the season, but he's now coming. He's putting recent performances. He's putting has been really good, right? And I have to give him credit. I'm quite happy to give credit to people when it's due. His recent performances has been good. The one that I'm looking for, right, is the Liverpool game at home, or the Villa game away, or Palace. These big games that you need someone like Odegaard to help and open up defenses and put in through balls, and it's good that he's contributing with scoring goals and assisting. So when I was saying that he's not good enough, he wasn't good enough at the time. He wasn't putting in good performances. He was dropped even for a spell, if you guys remember. But now he's coming back. He's been playing well, and I'd like to see him carry this on, and I'd like to see him perform in big games. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that, especially you, Tom.
Look, I think Odegaard is our most important player. I think he is the one that take him out of the side and we just don't play as well, especially in the attacking third. I think that his positions become so crucial to the way.
Do you think he's better than ESR?
I said most important. In terms of raw ability, I think top scorer, obviously Smith Rowe's having a very good season, but I think Odegaard is the most important player in this team. If you take him out of this team, I think that if you put Smith Rowe into the role that Odegaard's playing, I don't think we would play as well. Mainly because that role's changed from kind of an out-and-out number 10 to kind of a hybrid 8/10 kind of right central midfield position. But he's so important to the way in which we click. He's so important for getting the best out of Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. His link-up play of Lacazette's been excellent. His energy is infectious. His pressing is brilliant. His leadership skills are just absolutely tip-top to the level that he could be considered a captain for next season. I don't think it, when we use the word recently, I think that does him... I don't think that does him dirty. I think since, say, mid-start to mid-November, he's been our best player in this time. I think he's been, over the course of the last 4 months, our best player.
Is it fair to say you're an Odegaard fan?
Well, I'm an Arsenal fan, mate, and I like our players. But this is the thing, is like I'm sitting here complimenting this guy, and I know you're not doing it out of spite, but like you're putting me into a camp in the sense of like, oh, no, there's now like Odegaard stands, like there's Arteta stands and stuff. I like the guy. I liked him when he put him on loan.
Tom, you know I love you too much to put you on any stand.
I don't know, mate.
No, I wouldn't. No, it's just my opinion of him at the time was not great. He's had a recent run of form, and I've given him credit for. You're right, but again, it's one of those things I'd like to evaluate at the end of the season. And also, I want to see him on big games. I want to see him against, Chelsea, Tottenham, Man United, Liverpool. These are the games that you need the guy to come through. What's your thoughts, Moh?
Well, I think Martin Odegaard, even when we signed him, I half agree with you, Shaheen, in that I thought, is he going to be the player who we were, out of all the players we were rumoured to sign, is he going to be the player that's going to have the most influence on our team this season? That was one thing, and the answer for me was probably not. I would have thought Maddison would have slotted in with Premier League experience and a significant goal threat, and perhaps had more influence and product. But when I saw the transfer fee, I said, well, you can't argue with it. It's a bargain in this market. So on balance, I thought, if the Odegaard signing, rather than a Maddison signing for double the money, facilitates other signings that are important in the team, then I'm all for it. And I feel like, so I was happy with it at the time, but Odegaard has done more than what I expected he would do in his first proper season. And aside from just goals and assists and that sort of thing, I agree with Tom in Odegaard being sort of more important than Smith Rowe. I don't think he's the most important player in the team. I think that's Thomas Partey because of the replacement that comes in once they're not there. So with Odegaard, Smith Rowe comes in. I think he's a brilliant player as well. But in this system that Mikel Arteta plays, Odegaard is more suited for the role that he does than Smith Rowe is. So I think in a different team and a different system, Smith Rowe might be better. And actually, I think Smith Rowe's got a higher ceiling. I'm a huge Smith Rowe fan, even though it doesn't need to be one or the other anyway. But I think Odegaard's done really, really well. My question for him, though, is now, can you do that in the biggest games? And we need to see him push on there. This is his 5th goal this season, if I'm not mistaken. He needs to make sure he gets close to the double figures, if not getting into the double figures. And he has added end product in recent weeks. So now the next stage is do that in those huge games.
I have given him credit for the recent run of form, by the way. So for people who say I'm not a fan of him or anything like that, I'll never wish a player not to perform well for me to get my point across. But I'm more than happy to give credit when it's due. Master Roshi, thank you very much. I don't know where this is ZAR from. But anyway, thank you very much for your kind super chat. Fans who didn't want Odegaard, lack of understanding of football on a deeper level. Odegaard dictates our tempo. His stat now good because I wouldn't have read that if I knew he was saying this. His stat are good now because I think of his tempo, mentality, and positioning. Thank you very much.
It's a South African rant.
See, I don't think that's fair to say that people that didn't want him don't understand the game. I feel like it's not just about do you want Odegaard, yes or no. It's about do you want Odegaard over the alternatives. So different fans would have a different prediction or a different interpretation of how a player will slot in a different system and what they'll do. So, yeah, I think that's a little bit harsh to kind of come up with a blanket statement like that.
Yeah,
I think that Odegaard also was...
Sorry, Tom, go on.
I was going to say, I think that Odegaard, we say about big games, like he scored against Man United early in the season. He scored in the North London derby last season. He scored the crucial goal against Olympiacos in the Europa League. Like he does score in these big games and has done. He was really good against Manchester City in that game as well. And I think the thing is that this season, Mikel Arteta, and he spoke about, I don't know if you read Odegaard's interview he did with Norwegian TV, it came out a couple of, I think yesterday, but he said about what Mikel Arteta has asked him to do this season compared to last season. He's asked him to get into the box more. He wants him to get into more scoring opportunities than he did last season. And you're clearly seeing the impact. So when people kind of talk about who is Mikel Arteta improving, well, the evidence for us is right there that Odegaard is definitely one of the examples of what Arteta has improved so far this season, and the stats show that. But also, you look beyond just raw goals and assists and how important that he has been in those games of the last 4 months. He's been absolutely crucial for us.
And I hope it continues, and I hope that he bangs in goals in big games because we need everybody to come through, especially when it comes to scoring goals. Thank you, Master Roshi, again for your super chat. Who are alternatives? So I think Mo was talking about Emil Smith-Rowe when he was talking about alternatives.
Alternatives in the squad now, but at the time of the signing, the alternatives were Maddison and there was Awar as well. You know, so different people have sort of preferred those alternatives and felt that they would suit our system more or have more impact in the Premier League and that sort of thing.
Just before we move on from the Watford game, should we discuss the prediction issues for the game, Mo? You've got your sheet.
I forgot about this, you know.
You know what?
Has Lev told you the score?
Do you know what? I'm going to call Lev out, right? When Arsenal were winning 2-1, right? Man put out a tweet, right? It was saying, oh, God, please, Arsenal score another one because I don't want Shaheen to get another score, right? So he was actually worried about me getting it right because, and I think Mo ran like a questionnaire kind of thing on your Insta
story. Yeah, I saw that.
So we asked everyone to tell us how much it should be per head. There was £100 option. Lev, calm down, don't worry. £50 was the answer. So whoever loses this when we go out is footing a £200 bill for the four of us.
Yeah, that will be Lev. So Lev, my friend, get your wallet out. Anyway,
I've been saving like crazy for my wedding, so you know, got loads of left over.
Well, you're gonna be all right. I don't think. No, I think Lev is at the bottom, Tom. Right?
I don't know. Ask Mo. I've got to say.
I don't think anyone got the scoreline right.
We all got 1 point, so no change this week.
All right.
What's the actual table? Without naming Shaheen, like you don't have to read out Shaheen's score, but what are the other scores?
Fair enough. So the other scores, so we won't bother with the top one. I'm on 5, and then you and Lev are on 3, but you're ahead of him for no other reason than just to annoy Lev.
Yeah. Oh dear. Love that. Because I'm younger, that's the only reason. It goes by, it's like age difference.
If they finish on a draw, then what, they have to split
Then we split it. We split the bill.
No. Then it's who has got the high number
most
of
correct
scores.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it'd have to be split, I guess.
Okay. Well, fine. Moving on from that. We've got Leicester coming up. At home, I'll expect another 3 points because Leicester, they've been huffing and puffing a little bit. So I'll expect the same lineup from Mikel Arteta. I think it will be the same lineup, and I expect 3 points. Very standard 3 points. Actually, I expect a very comfortable 3 points. What's your thoughts on the game, Mo?
Oh God, Leicester are they're a bit hard to read, aren't they? But they're not on great form. I think Arsenal, especially at home, have got such a good record that unless you're playing Man City or Liverpool, where you kind of think to yourself, this is real quality, I feel like you have to be confident with Arsenal. So I'm going to go for the win. And I think that there'll be a renewed focus on the defensive element of our game because of Watford and it just simply not being good enough. And I think we'll keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go 2-0.
Tom?
I think that it's a game where Leicester will obviously be considering it, ironically, with these choice of words, a bit of a free hit for them because all of the pressure's on Arsenal to get the result in this game. Leicester are certainly going to be prioritising that Europa Conference League to try and get themselves back into Europe because a European place for them this season is looking a bit unlikely based upon their form. So they'll be looking at this as a chance to try and pick up some points, but it's not absolutely paramount that they do. And I think the pressure is going to be absolutely on us to try and get those 3 points. And it should be, because I think absolutely we need to be giving these type of results that give confidence to the fan base, give us momentum going into the Liverpool game, because that's a huge fixture. We also would do really well to get a fair few goals early to try and make some changes in the second half. So we're not kind of overcommitting with the game just a few days later. So
yeah, I'll say, go on. Sorry. No, go on. No, I was just going to say, I think getting an early goal would be key because if we get an early goal, pressure will be taken off us a little bit and Leicester would have to come out. And if they come out, they will leave gaps.
Just looking at their fixtures that they've just gone through to see how many kind of goals they're conceding. They kept a clean sheet against Leeds. Yeah, go on, mate. Sorry.
I think we forgot to give a special mention to Alexander Lacazette. I think he hasn't scored goals, right? But I think he's been very extremely important to the goals that we have scored, and the way that he links up everybody and what he offers right now, playing up front. And I think, and I'm not just talking about the Watford game. I'm talking about the recent run of form we've won. I think he's been very influential and important to that run of form. So I just want to give a shout out to him, and I hope he can keep it up because he's in a position that he's leaving soon. So he can easily just take it easy a little bit and then come to earn. But he's been very professional. He's been putting in good performances, works really hard. Yeah, we have to give him that. And I just think he's been extremely important to the way that we've been playing recently.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on. I think that going through the rest of the season, his role is going to be key because we didn't sign that striker in January, and that's always going to be what it comes down to. It's an interesting point as well, is that we talk about how Watford carried on kind of getting into the game towards the end of the match. That all happened when Lacazette went off. Like we lost that kind of focal point, and Nketiah doesn't give us that. We don't really have many subs to kind of help us out in winning positions other than Rob Holding, who comes on to turn us into a back three. We don't have anyone to really come off the bench. Nicolas Pepe, when he came on, didn't give us anything. And I think he's really good in those games like Wolves, where you can get him off the bench where you're chasing a goal and you're trying to get yourselves back into the game. But when you're actually trying to hold on and kind of see a game out, Pepe and Nketiah aren't really the ones that you want to be bringing on. I think that's a little bit of a criticism that I've got of Arteta in these moments, is that from the back line, he knows how to manage things. Throw on Rob Holding, go to a back three and stay solid. But he had Nuno Tavares on the bench, so I thought would have been a better substitution than, say, Nicolas Pepe to bring on. Put him ahead of, say, Kieran Tierney on the left. Keep Saka on the right if you're going to keep his energy there. And then you've got Tierney, was struggling a little bit, I thought, yesterday, as he has done previously. Tavares comes on and gives a bit more energy and also a bit more defensive kind of coverage than what Pepe would do. And it helps you see the game out a bit better. But we do lack a bit of depth in terms of subs for the positions when we're trying to see out 3 points. And maybe that's why we've started to concede goals quite late in games this season.
Yeah, that's a fair point. What would be your prediction, Tom?
Prediction for Leicester, I'll go 3-1.
For me, as I said, I expect...
by the way, that was, not Leicester.
Yeah, I expect us to beat Leicester, but I think they will score a goal, especially if Vardy plays. So I would say 2-1 Arsenal. And
classic Shaheen.
Yeah, every single week.
No, listen, You know why I say that? Because I think we can always give away a chance, and I don't see us that great up front to be scoring 3 or 4 in a game, especially against a Leicester team. So 2-1.
Cool. Have you got anything from Lev?
No, I just saw somebody put a comment. This guy, and I know him really well.
All right.
So I hope you keep him well, very nice to look after. So he used to run a football league that we used to play in. Man. So Lev says 2-1 as well.
2-1 as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
what he's
2-1
doing
means
now. He's going to keep the difference between you and him the same. He's just going to copy your scores. That's all he's going to do.
No, actually, to be fair, he didn't know. He didn't know what I was. I just asked him, since you're flopping, you're not coming. What's your prediction? He said 2-1 Arsenal.
The Liverpool one's going to be interesting. I look forward to the predictions for that because that could be where things start to split. Yeah.
No, but I hope that we. I hope I win.
Oh.
I was going to talk. But I'm not going to blag it. I hope I win. Anyway, Wayne, thank you very much for your super chat. Lacazette is doing what is asked of him. 7 assists, like Gabriel Jesus has 7 assists and 0 goals. Arteta is trying a version of Pep's system. Yeah, there's legs to that argument. I would say. We're going about 40 minutes, and there's still a few issues I'd like to cover. So let's dive into this. Mo, what's your thoughts on this ticket rise?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the ticket rise is that, some people will turn around and say, oh, COVID decimated our revenues, and they'll say it's our first ticket rise in God knows what, 8 years or whatever it might be. My issue with it is that the starting point of tickets is already too high. Right now, there's tickets available for the Liverpool game. So, we're not that far away from it. You'd have thought that might be sold out. No, there's tickets on Arsenal.com for the Liverpool game. They're £92 each. And now we're increasing the price of the tickets on that. That's just too much for me. When it gets into that category A territory, I think it's awful ticket prices. For your average sort of category B game, lower tier, you're paying around £40 or whatever. That sounds like it, and that can vary, but you'd hope to be able to pick up a ticket for about £40. That sounds okay in this day and age, but the fact is, if a father and son want to go, for example, mother and daughter want to go, the whole day it becomes quite expensive. You're looking at £100 plus, and I just don't feel like we needed that upward pressure. A lot of people have struggled over COVID, and I don't think it was nice this time. What I think, and it's always controversial, and I just don't understand why the club don't do this, why they don't say we have a planned price increase in 2025. For example. So 3 years ago, they could have planned this because they'll be doing their 3-year plans, 5-year financial plans internally anyway. Building your increases in that and then give the fans notice. So by the time it comes round, it's not new news. So the way the club deal with it, I don't think is the best. The timing, not the best. And the starting point, too high already. So I'm not for it.
Tom?
Yeah, I think it's when this is happening at the same time that for those that don't live in England and don't know about kind of the price rises that we're suffering at the moment and going through the roof, it is poor timing from that perspective as well. And Mo raises the good point about it's not comparable with that. It's not like, a price of a loaf of bread is very accessible, and putting that up by 5% doesn't really change too much. But when the prices are already ridiculous figures and you're starting to put them up by that 4%, it does make a difference week on week to the pocket of match going fans. And what we've seen interestingly of late is the demographic of Arsenal fans the age has started to lower. We're seeing a lot more students and a lot more kind of mid to late 20, early 30-year-olds go into the Arsenal where, the demographic was slightly older, say 5 to 10 years ago. And that's because of a lot of factors, but a lot of it has been because of the price freezes that we've seen. These games have become more accessible to some of the younger demographics. It's also improved the atmosphere of the Emirates. I think I've been to the Emirates this season quite a few times, and comparing it to when I've been, say, 5 years ago, it's louder. It is a better place to be. The environment's, but I think that Mikel Arteta has done a lot of work to help with that, with kind of the team and, you know, the connection between the players and the fans as well. But that is also down to the demographic decreasing and their willingness to get more involved with the atmosphere and to kind of promote, you know, the singing, the chanting, and you're seeing the new songs that are brought up for the new players. We've got the new Ben White one. There's a new Mikel Arteta one you'd probably seen on your social feeds come out today, which I thought was excellent too. And that does help. But if you start putting the prices up, you are going to lock out that younger demographic that are so important to fan atmospheres. And it's important also when Arsenal fans, especially young ones, need more of a reason these days to support. Because whilst we talk about the fan bases, that hub of Highbury and Islington and North London and, you know, being in families for generations, it's still important to generate a fan base beyond North London and to have that revenue globally. And if you're in a situation where Arsenal is, where, you know, 10 years ago, Arsenal were no longer a golden age Premier League title win. In 10 years ago, we were struggling to, you know, stay in the top four and to try and keep the top four every year. And it wasn't the most inspiring a team to say foreign fans to look at and then start supporting. But we need to try and recapture that. And one of the ways you can do that is to make games in the Premier League more accessible for tourists. And I know people hate tourism, but it is a part of the game. And it is unfortunately part of something that does need to be encouraged to help with revenue and with local communities in the area as well.
Yeah, fair point. My view on this is a little bit different. I think we're already paying quite high prices. I mean, it's not just the ticket price. Once you go in Emirates, right? If you want to buy a bottle of water, if you want to buy juice, burgers, this and that, it is expensive. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been going I normally go to club level, right? And when I do go there, you can buy a burger and chips for £15. And you're not talking, and I'm not talking about these, you know, fat burgers. No, it's quite smaller than what they sell outside on the street. So I'm actually surprised that they've done it, because the way I see it is they've seen one moment that the team is playing well, the fans are a little bit off Kroenke's case recently, they were a bit calmer, things are a bit rosier, and then they've seen one opportunity to boom, bring that, and it's bringing to about £3 or £4 million a year, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of revenue, and they want to spend that in terms of for stadium work and other things. And I'm just thinking £3-4 million in the grand scheme of things for a club like Arsenal is not a lot of money. You're doing that to hurt the pocket of fans who the lifeline of this club. And also, why, you know, there is so many other ways that you can save this £3 or £4 million. One clear example that comes to mind: don't let players walk away for free. Because if you let your players' assets walk away for free, if you don't accept £22 million for Ainsley Maitland-Niles and then keep him and then loan him out, and that let Alexander Lacazette, Eddie Nketiah, Aubameyang, Ozil, Socrates, Mustafi, Kolasinac, all of these players walk away for free.
Well remembered. That was good off the top of your head.
You know, once you do all of that, well, why don't you try to do a better bit of business for them? If you're waiting for £3-4 million,
you're muted, Mo.
I'm sure you could have got something out of one of these players. So then you could actually look after your fans a little bit more.
Shaheen, look, I'm sure they are trying to do that. And also, look, I think what you're saying, like, even though I don't agree with the price rise, if I was working at the club, I'm sure they'd be saying, you know, we are trying to compound loads of different initiatives. It's not that they're trying to grow their revenue by 3 million. They're probably trying to grow it by 30 million or more. So they're going to be saying, like, okay, we will, for example, rise up, do the ticket price increase. That's 3 million of a 30 million target. Then we'll do something with wages, which, you know, they've clearly saved a lot of money on wages in terms of moving players out. They'll be probably talking to their commercial partners and saying, this is what we're going to do with the price increases. They'll be doing loads of things, and it's that compounded impact. So when you start in business with a target to grow revenues to a particular level or by a particular percentage, and then you work backwards and say, how are we going to sort of disseminate this target into all the different departments within the club? That's probably how they've reached that decision to say, okay, 3 million of that bigger target will come from ticket sales. So when people turn around then and say, what's the point? It's only 3 million. If they took that view across everything, then there is no growth.
No,
So,
I hear that, Mo, and I agree with what you're saying. But I think if I was to look at this, I would maybe consider the society that we live in, the current climate of war that we're in. And I think, we need to be helping these fans rather than making it harder for them to come. This 3-4%, to some people, might be the difference of going and not going to the Arsenal.
yeah, exactly. And that's why
a lot of people travel. Yourself, you don't live around the corner from the Emirates, so you travel in. I know you drive in. I know it's difficult for you to drive in. You can't park around here, so I know you have arrangement with your missus, etc. So it's difficult for you to come all the way, drive in, and then pay that 4% extra. Generally, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people might be coming in and they're thinking, all right, well, the ticket prices for the TFO have gone up. That has gone up. This has gone up. And now Arsenal tickets have gone up as well. So maybe if you add it all up, it's going to cost me an extra 50 or 60 quid to go and watch the game. So maybe not. Maybe I'll give it a miss because I can spend that money maybe better somewhere else. Because recently, the price of electricity, gas, everything has gone up. And this is normal people that go and watch these games, and these things make a difference to them.
No, I hear that, and none of us are for it. But I'm just saying that hopefully this is not just sort of a lazy let's get an extra 3 million in. I'm sure it's part of a wider strategy to make us more competitive. And when you look at our commercial revenues, for example, it's not good enough. They haven't grown enough. So hopefully it's just part of a strategy to make sure that we climb in that sort of money table, that football money table, rather than as we have been in recent years dropping off.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully next season we'll have I think we will have European football, whether it's Champions League or Europa League, it will remain to be seen. And I think that the revenue that will come in from that should and would help. I just wish that they'll consider that the average fan that goes to the game a little bit more. Let's try to end on a positive and have a jolly ending. Top 4. I think it's fair to say that it is ours to lose. Yeah. I know Tottenham are really smashing Everton right now, but
I think everyone is, to be fair.
I mean, I've seen people putting a 3-0 up already, but I don't really. I mean, I was watching the Manchester derby, and after the game, they were talking about the top 4 bet, this and that, and I think it was Jamie Redknapp, I think it was Jamie Redknapp who turned around and said he still expects Man United to finish the 4th. I just can't see that happening. I think we'll beat them at the Emirates, and I don't really see anybody. If we don't fuck it up, I don't see anybody catching us. Am I overconfident or?
No, you know what? The thing that I find strange about what Gary Neville, for example, and I can't remember Jamie Redknapp saying it, but I know Gary Neville said he expects Man United to do it still. When you look at the games Arsenal have got that are truly, truly difficult, Liverpool at home, Man United at home, purely because they're rivals, West Ham away, and Tottenham and Chelsea. So there's 5 games, and Tottenham and Chelsea are both away. So there's 5 games that are really, really, quite difficult and playing rivals and top teams. But we are ahead of Man United in the league table by 3 points. No, sorry, by 1 point.
1 point and what 3 games in it?
Yeah, we can afford to lose 3 of those 5 and still be ahead of them. So, obviously Tottenham come into it. They're 3 points behind us. They've played a game more. We'll have to see what happens with their games in hand as well. But, we can literally play for draws in those games. Man United have to go and win and then not slip up in any other games. And then look at how awful they've been. And look at Arsenal's form and trajectory. So I don't understand how he's come to that. And, if he was in front of me and wanted to put his house on it, I wonder if he would. Because
Mo, you met Gary Neville once, right?
Yeah.
I think
you answered that. That was a brilliant tone of the answer. That was great. Oh, dearie me. I just think that I get Shaheen where they're coming from. Like, and Arsenal, there's always that rhetoric around the media that the media don't want Arsenal to succeed. And I'm fine with them bigging up Man United. I'm fine with them ruling us out. It's great. Keep ruling us out. Keep the pressure off us. I don't want it. I don't want this expectation. So I don't want podcasts coming out and saying it's ours to lose, Shaheen, because it puts that added pressure on Arsenal. And you're seeing a lot of that rhetoric, I think, from, maybe from the section of the fan base that isn't so sure about Arteta, for instance, is certainly pushing that kind of rhetoric of, if we don't get top four now, it's an absolute catastrophe at this stage. And I think that maybe there's that being built up. But what happens if we do achieve it? Because I think then there's an argument that the people are going to try and diminish the achievement of us getting into the top four. If we get into the top four this season, it is a massive overachievement. I think we have the fifth best squad. I don't think we have anywhere near the fifth best manager in the table, to be honest. I think there are plenty more managers, you would say, are more experienced, should be getting their teams further up the league. And Mikel Arteta is got a real good chance of getting the youngest averaged age squad in the entirety of England, top flight, into the top four. It would be a really big achievement. I was listening, and I reluctantly listening to Jamie O'Hara's comparison of when he started talking about how Arsenal had spent £135 million on a B team, and then was having a conversation with Laura Woods earlier about how he feels that Arsenal should be in the top four. And there's this weird kind of agenda around that Arsenal should be in the top four. We were league titles winners. We were Champions League finalists. We're one of the most successful teams in England. Yes, we were. And were is the past tense, because we have gone a long way since that point, and a lot has happened. I'd love to be back into the top four. I'd love to be back competing for titles, but I'm realistic about where Arsenal are right now. And to get this young team with this young manager into the top four would be a huge achievement, and it would show that we are on the right path, and we should champion that, in my view.
I think everybody knows that I'm not Mikel Arteta's biggest fan, but I'll second that, Tom. And I think if he does finish in top four, huge credit has to go to him, and it's a massive overachievement. Sorry, Moh, go on.
Yeah, no, listen, I think Tom's bang on there. It is an overachievement, not based on Arsenal's history, but based on Arsenal's present. And this is, if anyone has seen the conversation between Jamie O'Hara and Laura Woods, this is the point that Jamie O'Hara, either through sort of stubbornness or stupidity, was not getting, or at least pretending not to get, depending on which one it is. So absolutely, Arsenal should be a Champions League team. But in recent years, we have not been. And at the start of the season, and this is where I feel like this should always be the anchor. You should always revert back to what you said at the start of the season before the benefit of hindsight in terms of what you thought a team would do. And then you appraise that team based on what you said you think they'd do. I thought Arsenal would finish about 6th. I said it could be anywhere between 4th and 10th, to be honest with you. But I thought it'd be an improvement on 8th. And I didn't think we'd get top 4. I thought there were plenty of teams with better squads than us. And also, when you look at Arsenal, when you say, how many world-class, truly world-class players do we have in our team? I think a lot of people would say 0 in terms of truly world-class. You look at Tottenham, you look at Man United, they've got world-class players. City, Liverpool, world-class players. Chelsea, world-class players. And on that basis, I kind of feel like there was a real case for people saying that, we might finish 6th. Even Everton, at the start of the season, people were fancying them. Leicester as well, people were fancying them. It was not a pretty prediction at the start of the season for Arsenal. And I think that given the clear out that we've had as well, and the budgetary constraints that clearly Arsenal have had in shifting so many players and having such a lean squad, Arteta's done a really good job. If he doesn't get top 4, I'm not going to be calling for his head, because I think as much as I felt like he's not the man long term, or to really get us to where we need to be in terms of winning titles again, I think he's done really, really well, and I want to give him credit and give him his dues for what he's done so far this season.
Is this a counter argument? This is from Arsenal Manic. I think he's also Iranian as well. Shout out to him. It isn't an overachievement. 3rd season, tons of money provided as well. We got knocked out of all cups early as well.
This is for me, keep it on the screen, Shane, for reference, because it's this type of argument has absolutely no weight to it, in my opinion, because it lacks all context. Because all that's been provided there is vague facts. We have spent a lot of money. Vague fact. We have got knocked out of all the cups. He says early we got to the semi-finals of the League Cup. Like that, I mean, that kind of tells you in itself. We got knocked out against Nottingham Forest in the third round of the FA Cup with a depleted Arsenal side, fully rotated without most of the first team squad there. And you know, it's not like we haven't seen other Premier League sides get knocked out by Championship opposition who are our rivals as well for top four this season. It's the money side of things really bugs me as an argument, because in 2021, that was the first summer window where we spent significantly but smartly. All the other years, arguably 2020 is a slightly different because Partey and Gabriel, I think, are good signings. But you go back from that, and we have overspent on so many players and poorly spent on so many players when we've had so many other areas of the team that we need to invest in. We desperately needed a centre-back in Unai Emery's first season, a really good one. And we spent £72 million on Nicolas Pepe. Now, Pepe was a wide forward that Emery wanted, but we needed to bring in a centre-back that season that was really going to help us solidify the defence. We didn't, and our defence suffered because of that. Go back further, Mustafi being brought in for the money that he was brought in for, Xhaka being brought in for the money that he was brought in for, even Lacazette. And then you have to spend £50 million on Aubameyang 6 months later because you realise Lacazette for £50 million isn't getting you the goals and you're losing Alexis Sanchez. So the argument that we've spent loads of money is so vague and without context and without facts, without kind of that guidance associated with them, that it makes it look like we've spent loads of money. We spent over £1 billion since Stan Kroenke took over in 2007. That makes it sound like we should be up with the Man Cities. And yeah, we should be by spending that much, but we've spent it badly. And Arteta's the first manager that's ever come in 2021 and really changed the way that we spend our money. And we've spent it for the better. And we're in a top four race because of it as well.
Okay, great. And one last talking point. I really want to.
Okay, great.
I want to expand on this, Tom. I do, but I'm just conscious of the time. And this is the last thing I wanted to discuss with you. Do I dare start this off with Moh? Because I know he's going to go into it, but fuck it. What's your thoughts on Abramovich selling Chelsea?
He's such a manipulative little bloke. Look at you, Shane, enjoying it. The stunt he tried to pull before he's actually now come out and said, I'm going to sell, in terms of transferring ownership to the charitable trust. Apparently the trustees contacted the Charities Commission because they weren't informed. They hadn't signed up to it. They hadn't signed it.
Yeah, I think they reported a serious incident or something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is a joke. It shows how little respect he's got, even for a charitable organization, that he thought he could just use them to maneuver himself out of, what was coming to him and just out of self-preservation. And the fact that he is selling them now, I truly, truly hope, because, it's not a nice thing to say. It's like people say, like, oh, you never want to see a player get injured, right? So no one should ever, in a way, want a football club to go to a really bad owner because it's the fans that suffer. But you know what? I hope Chelsea suffer the equal and opposite for the next God knows however many years, or 15 years that he's owned them or more. I hope they suffer the equal and opposite now with a really bad owner, because what they've done since he joined is financial doping. He's changed the landscape of the game. He has absolutely, every single trophy they've won has got a barcode and a receipt on it that you can scan and figure out how much they spent to get that trophy. They haven't won it. They haven't won these trophies in a way that I would personally be proud of. And also what they've done, they've commoditized footballers during his time, signed players, loaned them out, sold them. It's a player farm, Chelsea. I don't like the way they do business. I don't like him. And I think football's better off without people like him that create that financial doping advantage of £1.5 billion debt that he's just going to write off. So,
and what's your thoughts on at the beginning of the game, Chelsea game, that they were clapping for the Ukraine and Ukrainian fans, Chelsea fans shouting out Abramovich's name? Is it an issue or? Insensitive or no? Not really. They're just supporting a guy who made their club.
If they did that at any other time in the game, you could turn around and say, okay, maybe they're just supporting him. But the fact that they chose that moment when Burnley, I think it was Burnley, right? They were showing solidarity for Ukraine. I mean,
yeah.
Do you know what? Even that, I just don't understand what these grown men are thinking. Like, there's literally civilians dying in Ukraine. Like, it's just a really, really sad story. And what's more important to you? Like your tribal football, your sort of like this tribal footballing thing that's going on in your head. I'm just stuff like that. I'm just disappointed. I just kind of feel like idiotic, really, really idiotic. And Thomas Tuchel came out and spoke out against it, and I think that good on him. He spoke really well recently when he was asked about Ukraine, and he kind of saying, "Stop asking me. I'm not a politician. I'm a football manager." And I thought he spoke really well then, and also he spoke well when he kind of went up against the fans there and said, "Yeah, shouldn't have done it. It's just disgusting."
Tom, is that him selling Chelsea? Is that a good thing for Arsenal?
Yeah, it is a good thing for Arsenal because there's probably not another owner on the planet that has that much passion for a football club as what Abramovich does for Chelsea. You really will struggle to find an owner with that amount of ability to invest as what Abramovich has done into Chelsea. Whoever they get in, they may want to invest. They may want to try and continue on and pushing Chelsea towards what they can. But there will be no owner that will back Chelsea as much as Abramovich has done with the same amount of money, the same amount of ruthlessness is a good word to describe kind of his reign, and just the sacking of managers, the selling of players, the bringing Kepa for 80-odd million quid. Not good enough, we'll go and sign Mendy instead the next year. Arsenal couldn't do that under Kroenke. We couldn't spend spend that amount of money on a goalkeeper and then look to replace them after a year. We just couldn't do that for that level of money that's being spent. And so when that new owner comes in, and I'll tell you what, when we talk about kind of the 1.5 billion that he's supposedly written off, I'm looking at UEFA and I'm looking at FFP and going, how on earth can anyone pump 1.5 billion quid worth of investment into transfers? Just sell up and say, I don't want any of that back. I don't want any of that back. You've spent it. It's done. It's gone. How on earth is that financial fair play? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I get what he's doing, and that's fine. And look, we all know what's happening with the assets that are being frozen. It's not like there's a what's the word I'm looking for, a motive behind the decision to sell up now. And when they talk about it's not going to be a quick sale, well, it's going to happen pretty quicker than he may have ever expected him to have to sell him for. And that's what other things are well. But just lastly, and I did want to echo the point of what Mo said about the fans and the Ukrainian situation, because in that moment, what I find staggering, and I've even seen it in the chat box, is that we've brought up this point about Chelsea fans chanting during a moment where we as fans were showing solidarity with the civilians that are dying every single day, innocent civilians dying every day. And yet the response you see from some people is to defend Abramovich. I don't care. I don't give a toss about Abramovich. In that moment, we are showing our solidarity and unity as much as we can from thousands of miles away with those people. And so in your mind and your brain chemistry tells you that you have to then put out a message that says, what's Abramovich done wrong? When actually you should be thinking, oh, wow, in that moment, yeah, you're right. We were actually showing solidarity with those Ukrainian people. And if they wanted to chant Abramovich's name at any other point, fine. But they chose to do it in that specific moment. If you can't see what's wrong with that, genuinely take a look at yourself, because you.
So basically, what you're saying is the issue that you have is with them chanting his name in that moment.
In that moment, yeah.
If they were doing it in the middle of the game, you would have understood it to a certain degree.
He's done what he's done for that club has been ridiculous. Like, there is obviously a lot of the stuff that I'm not educated enough around, to be honest, what Abramovich has done, and I'm not going to sit here and try and document all the bad things if there are any allegedly that he's done. But if you look at I'm sure he would. But if you look at it from a footballing perspective, he's elevated Chelsea from a irrelevant side into one of the most successful teams. No club in England's won more trophies since he took over than Chelsea. And so if a fan wants to sing the man's name that's done that to their football club, I can understand that. But doing it in that moment, that's just sickening. It's absolutely sickening. It's disgusting behaviour. It's as simple as that.
And then as we said at the beginning of the show, it's really beautiful the way footballers come together to support Ukraine and Ukrainian people. I just hope that we do come together for other causes that has been happening, like the Palestine issue, like the Uyghur Muslims, like the conflict in Yemen, the conflict in Peshawar. So we shouldn't pick and choose what we're going to support massively and what we're going to ignore massively. Anyway, it's been actually we've been talking about an hour and 10 minutes. It's flown by. So last thoughts, Mo?
Nothing. Onwards to Leicester. Let's go and win that game and keep on this charge to top 4.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, echo those thoughts. It's just focus on the next game. Don't focus on what we can achieve. Just the next game. Get 3 points. That's all we can do. And it's been a pleasure to join you both, as always, lads.
Thank you. The pleasure is ours. Again, thank you very much, guys, for being here, for watching us. Please subscribe to Arsenal Lounge. Subscribe to Moh Haydar's channel. Subscribe to Tom at the Gooners Talk TV. Hit the like, comment, leave your thoughts for us after the show. Lev obviously couldn't make it today, but thank you very much for being here. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we will see you guys at some point this week if we can do a show, or if not, next week, Monday.